What do you think of when you hear the word wisdom? Is it something you want? If so, how much do you want it? Let me tell you that the ancients saw wisdom as the chief pursuit. So what's changed? Or what do people still pursue like it's the only thing that matters? Historically, wisdom was seen as the way to access understanding of all things. And with that knowledge comes clarity, power, and insight. Wisdom is a way to see further, to look at a situation with a perspective beyond what normal sight produces. But here's the part most people don't consider. What if wisdom doesn't always come from what you gain, but from what you lose? To see what wisdom has to offer, maybe you just need to close your eyes and see beyond what is right in front of you. In the Viking world, the wisest god of all, he didn't read a bunch of books, climb his way to a mountain of knowledge, or drink a magic potion. No, that was just for poetry. Instead, Odin paid a high price for wisdom, which tells you something about the Viking age and how they viewed and valued wisdom. Today, we step into one of the most haunting and dangerously misunderstood stories in Norse mythology, the story of Odin and his pursuit of wisdom. He wasn't a king draped in glory, not a distant god on a throne who has always possessed infinite wisdom. But what we see is him as a relentless seeker, not just of knowledge, but of wisdom. Odin looked at the limits of his own understanding and he said, there has to be more. And then he did something about it. In this episode, we walk with him to the edge of the world, to the black waters of Mimir's well, buried beneath the ancient roots of Yggdrasil, a place where knowledge and wisdom don't come freely. They come with a cost. So by the end of this episode, you won't just understand Odin, you'll feel him. And more importantly, you'll feel the question he leaves behind, hanging there between wisdom and comfort. What will you be willing to sacrifice to truly see? And if you truly want to see all that wisdom has to offer, then you'll have to limit your vision in other ways. By the end of this episode, you'll see how the desire for wisdom is at the very root of Viking Age belief and pursuit. And that the Vikings didn't believe that wisdom was handed down like advice from some kind of old man offloading everything he knows while you sit by the fire. They believe that wisdom comes from what you are willing to give up in order to get it. Let's start by going somewhere most stories only whisper about. Not to Asgard, not to Valhalla, but down, deeper, under the tree that connects all 9 realms of Norse mythology. And just like any tree, there's just as much under the ground as there is above. And what happens under is where the magic takes place. We're talking about the tangled roots of Yggdrasil, far below the reach of sunlight, where something ancient waits. You don't walk here, you're brought. One moment you're standing in the world you know, and the next everything shifts. Light drains, sound folds in on itself, and your eyes, they begin to adjust, not to darkness, but to something deeper than sight. The first thing you notice is the air feels different. The wind doesn't blow here. It's absent. No rushing leaves, no calm breath against your skin, just silence. The air is thick enough to feel. You can sense that even in the stillness, there's something caught in the roots, caught in the silence, caught in something older than breath itself. You step forward carefully, and the ground beneath you, it doesn't feel like earth. It's solid, but not completely. It feels alive, because this is no ordinary place. This is the underside of the world. You are standing beneath the great ash tree Yggdrasil, where the roots don't simply burrow into soil. They thread through existence. They rise around you like ancient pillars, twisted, massive, and endless. Their paraderm is rough as you move your hand across them, and as you press your palm against the roots that are as thick as the largest trees you've ever seen, you feel it. A slow pulse, almost like a heartbeat. One root glows with a cold blue. You touch it, and you can feel the ice in your bones, as if it drinks from frost from some ancient glacial stream. Another stretches upward so far you can't even follow it. It's out of reach, but you can see the light attempting to escape its grasp, pulling towards something brighter, heavier. It feels almost divine. Another that coils deeper, streaked with black, but glowing black. The oddest sight you've ever seen. At that moment, you're not sure how you're seeing. With your eyes, with your mind, or with something else. You touch the glowing black root and your mind resists. You instantly feel the root connects to a place that feels wrong to even attempt to imagine. This is the place where all 9 realms begin. It's the origin of all that flows from Yggdrasil. And at the center of it all, you see it. A well. Not wide, not grand, but it draws your eye because something in you knows. This place has ancient history, much of which is out of reach and beyond understanding. Everything is old and oversized, and there's nothing there to take away as a memento or a keepsake. But there is one thing, the only thing that can be taken, and it's the well, and it seems to be inviting you. You step closer. The air feels as though it's vibrating. The glowing roots pulsate deeper and faster, until even you're unsure if your own thoughts are yours or a connection to something else. You look down into the well. The water is closer than you imagined. It's within reach, and it's black, undisturbed, pure, and still. You lean closer to the well, waiting for your reflection, but nothing looks back. No face, no outline, just endless depth. And as you stare into it, something shifts. Not in the water, behind you. You feel it before you see it, a presence. Someone else is there with you. When you look up, you realize you're not alone. There are 2 figures. One looks like you, new, observant, and searching. The other is as ancient as the roots themselves and appears to have been present just as long. As you step back from the well, the 2 figures approach, and you realize your presence there goes unnoticed. You're not quite sure if they see you or if they're just so focused on the well that everything else is irrelevant. They meet at the edge of the well. You recognize them both. You know them both. You're not sure how, but the long-term resident, Mimir, this is his well. His face, ancient, not aged, just ancient. There's a stillness and a calmness to him that feels inhuman, as if he has already seen what comes next and how it will all play out, like a man who has witnessed his own ending and didn't look away. He does not greet the visitor. There is no welcome. He simply waits, watches, and measures. The seeker, he didn't offer his name or his credentials. You know who he is without trying. This is Odin, the Asgardian, and you sense his motives and his mission. You know exactly why he's here. He's here to drink from the well. He's here because of a realization that strength and wealth is not enough. You can sense every victory, countless battles won. The visitor, you can tell, has a deep sense of longing for more. Something more to satisfy. Something more satisfying than power and glory. Worth more than endless rubies. This is not about winning. It's about understanding. You know that is exactly why he came. He came for clarity. Mimir spoke. You seek the wisdom of the well. Not a question, a statement, a verdict. Silence added to the weight of the air. Odin didn't answer because what do you say when someone exposes your deepest thoughts? Mimir turns just slightly and gestures towards the well. The water doesn't ripple. It simply waits for the one who is determined to drink. The seeker, slightly taken back by the opportunity, steps forward. The roots almost seem to twist and tighten with anticipation. The air grows heavy and vibrations are felt in the air, as if the world itself is weighing this moment like it's a hinge in time. As Odin peers down at the non-reflective pool, Mimir lifts his hand. To drink from the well will cost you. No one drinks from my well for free. The words hover for a moment. But the traveler did not hesitate, because somewhere deep down, he already knew that this pursuit would in fact cost him something. Mimir steps closer to Odin, close enough that the truth in his gaze becomes unbearable. Mimir is close enough to see everything that he is. It will cost you something that you can't take back. There will be pain, there will be sacrifice, and there will be a change in your perspective. And the scar will be a reminder that the price was paid, so that no one will doubt that wisdom is embodied in you. Then quietly, with a whisper, he speaks the words that echo through all the realms and every saga that follows. It will cost you your eye. Now, will Odin turn back? Mimir already knows the answer. Will Odin walk away whole? Or does he drink to gain wisdom, but his vision becoming incomplete? For the first time, the question enters Odin's mind and says, what does it mean to gain wisdom? What is wisdom? What will be the result of more wisdom? What would you do for wisdom? And would you accept the price of wisdom if it demanded something you could never get back? Let's pause the story, because this isn't just about myth. It's a window into how people saw the world. What they valued and what they envisioned was worth giving up in order to obtain something of immense worth. To the Norse, Odin wasn't just a god of war or the ruler of Asgard. He was something far more decentralized. He was a traveler, a seeker. Odin was an Asgardian who feared ignorance more than pain. He would rather suffer blindness than remain dark in his understanding. And that matters, because the Vikings did not admire comfort. They didn't build their lives around ease and safety. They built them around timeless principles of truth. We can also deduce that during the Viking Age, they never saw wisdom and understanding as something that could be obtained cheaply. It was carved out of stone, and it was experienced in the middle of a vast, cold sea where land and safety were not visible. It was won in survival and blood, and it was preserved in stories and sagas. This is a shift in perspective. Today, people often want wisdom packaged neatly in a 90-second clip, in a 15-minute life hack. If it's not condensed, it's not worth it. If it's not delivered clean and quick with perfect lighting and enhanced audio, it can't have value. Because people want something that they can consume without it costing anything. But the Norse, they believe something far heavier. Wisdom was earned through suffering, sacrifice, and endurance, not because pain was the goal, but because pain revealed what comfort could never unleash. Odin wasn't admired because he was powerful. Power was expected, assumed of all Asgardians. What made him unique in the Norse pantheon was not that he suffered. It was what he was willing to suffer for. He chose pain when he didn't have to. He chose to seek truth when ignorance would have been easier, because it doesn't cost anything to remain exactly where you are. He chose to pay a price most never would consider. And even kings, men who ruled land, commanded warriors, shaped the fate of others, they looked at Odin and they saw what he valued more than power and victory. Odin added balance to a rough and brutal era that keeps historians from focusing in on only blood, battles, and raiding. See, there's a part of this that people don't always consider, that the hunger for wisdom, it didn't disappear when the old gods began to fade. It didn't vanish when new beliefs came ashore. If anything, it might actually explain the shift, because people that are trained to seek truth at any cost, it doesn't stop seeking when the answers change, or settle for that's just what we believe because we've always believed it. They followed the thread. Because wisdom says truth is truth regardless of what you hope is true or want to be true. In other words, it was the lens through which they saw the world. Because at their core, the Vikings understood something most people don't. Wisdom will always cost you more than you expect, but in the end is worth more than anything you could ever give to gain what you cannot lose. Before we return to resolve Odin's story and whether he will drink and lose his eye. Let's talk briefly about a few other instances where the character of Odin and his pursuits are revealed. Odin was after more than wisdom, and an eye wasn't the only thing that he was going to lay on the line to get what he sought. 3 other pursuits worth noting, one of which already has an episode. Each one heavy in its own right, but the last one is the weightiest of them all. And each one asks the same question in a different form, just like the question posed before Mimir's well. How far are you willing to go to gain what you're looking for? Odin was after a very special mead. It was the glowing brew of poetry. Odin didn't have to go to war for it, but he did have to devise a plan that entailed deception. It was like the greatest heist of Norse lore. He slipped into the stronghold of giants. He charmed his way past the guard. He drank the legendary mead of poetry. All of it. This was the brew that turned men into poets. And then he fled, not on foot, but as an eagle. And he was chased across the sky by fury and vengeance. But he made it back to Asgard, just barely. And just a few drops of what he carried with him, it changed the world. Because from that moment on, poetry became something more. It became inspiration, and it transformed truth into a poetic voice. And it came with a cost. Not of blood this time. Lives were lost. Trust was sacrificed. And as a result, the world now has to tolerate bad poets. Odin didn't just want special mead. He wanted sacred knowledge. He wanted to know how everything would end. The fate of the gods, the unraveling of the world, of his own demise, a forbidden knowledge that even if you could obtain, should we? The secret knowledge that would reveal that the Asgardians don't last forever, that even their power has a very real limit. But Odin went looking for it anyway. He sought out seers, dragged truth from the dead, even raised the Völva from her grave just to ask a single question. Tell me, how does the story end? And she told him of the fire swallowing the sky, of wolves devouring the sun, of the fall of the gods, including him. And here's what makes the mission unforgettable. He didn't walk away the same. He didn't bury the knowledge. He didn't pretend it wasn't coming. He learned. He prepared for it. This is why we find Odin residing over Valhalla and his desire to collect valiant warriors with the thought of staving off the inevitable. But the cost of obtaining this knowledge was learning of his son Baldur's death. Baldur would eventually die at the hands of Loki, or the cunning craftiness of Loki tricking Baldur's brother into killing him. So again, this knowledge, this pursuit, it cost him something. But the ultimate pursuit and the ultimate sacrifice was for something more than symbols. It was for the ability to reshape reality itself through letters and words, to tap into the power of shapes that influence fate and forces beyond the physical world. We're talking about when Odin obtained the runes, not just symbols, not just markings, but something deeper, a hidden framework beneath reality itself, truth in its rawest form. And that truth cannot be stolen or altered. Why? Because it is. It has always been, and it will always be the original word. Odin wasn't going to trick anyone into obtaining the runes or have to wake someone from the dead. No, the cost was far greater. And this one doesn't happen underground or out of sight of the realms. No, it happens on Yggdrasil, the great ash tree that binds all 9 realms together. And what Odin does there is he offers himself as a sacrifice. He hangs on the tree. He becomes a sacrifice, not for the world, but for himself. He hung there for 9 nights. No food, no water, no comfort. Pierced by his own spear, the same weapon that decides the fate of warriors now turned inward and used against him. Suspended on the tree between life and death, between knowing and not knowing. He wanted the knowledge that the runes would supply. Odin didn't create runes. He discovered them through suffering. Their meaning has always been rooted in what he gave up to obtain them. The interesting twist in Norse cosmology is that truth, it was always there. It was just waiting for the right moment, for the correct offering. In the Norse mind, knowledge wasn't invented. It has been there all along, which means that the knowledge that we lack is out there and ready to be discovered as long as we're willing to give up what truth demands. Odin provides on multiple levels what is worth pursuing, and none of them are the aggressive picture that historians often reduce the Viking Age down to. Odin demonstrated and taught the Norse that ignorance was far greater than the threat of death itself. He taught that poetry is central to life and expression, and that wisdom is worth whatever it costs to obtain. Let's descend again back into the roots of the tree where Odin hung and see how our story today resolves. The water isn't free. The cost is one eye from the one who desires to drink. Odin steps forward. No hesitation, only certainty. Because some decisions are made in the moment and some are made before the question is even asked. He kneels at the edge of Mimir's well. Up close, the water, it remains black and still. Like this is the only world where it could ever belong. Because in Midgard or Asgard, it wouldn't make sense. It's as if the water has memory, understanding, like it's the kind of water that if you drink from it once, you'll never have to drink from it again. Not because you know everything, but because you understand what to do and where to go when wisdom or knowledge is lacking in the future. He leans in, and for a brief moment, he sees himself, not a reflection of who he is, but a future version of what he would become. And then he lets go of who he is, who he was, and he embraces a future version that has less vision than before, but sees more clearly than ever. The offering is made, no spectacle, no cry, just the quiet surrender of something that can never be returned. The eye falls, and the well accepts it. Mimir watches, not surprised, he's never surprised. And then he nods. Permission. Odin cups the water in his hands. It is colder than ice, blacker than night. He drinks, and the world, it changes. Not around him, within him. The roots are no longer just roots. They are pathways. They are connected. They all originate in the same place, yet have great distinction when they break through the surface. He now sees how one choice bends another, that all decisions matter, that there's no such thing as a big choice or a small one. They're all significant, because in the end, there are only two paths. There have always been only two paths. One path is true and the other is not. How a single word is like a single spark, and even the smallest spark can set a whole forest on fire. The wisdom that unfolds comes fast and furious. If this were anyone else, it might have left them crippled by the weight of knowing and understanding. Momentarily, on his knees, he rose. He was something new. The Norse world took notice, and the sagas recorded it. Now standing the same height, but taller. The same mind, but wiser. Down to one eye, but with sharper vision than ever before. Here's the question. Does the world in which we live have a high view of wisdom? Do we see wisdom the way the Norse did? Have we moved forward or regressed in our pursuit of wisdom? These are all important questions, and honest questions that I'd love to hear what you think in the comments or on Discord. Have we as a global society turned wisdom into something safe, palatable, relative, or something that can be obtained by scrolling or reading a book, watching a video, listening to a podcast? Deep down, we know there is something deeper than what we can fully grasp. There's a world worth discovering, and that wisdom is something more than information and facts that fill our minds. Odin would look at our world, our endless access to knowledge, the constant noise of entertainment, of surface-level relationships, and he wouldn't be impressed. Then he would ask us a far more uncomfortable question. What does it cost you? And what have you gained? Here's how we know it's wisdom, and here's how we can tell if we have any. Real wisdom always leaves a mark. And whatever it costs to get, you wouldn't trade it back because of the value of what wisdom has given to you. Here's the hard truth. The pursuit of wisdom can and will cost, because wisdom will always cause you to outgrow who you used to be. It will cost comfort. Wisdom pulls you out of what's easy and into what is right. It can even cost you your ego. Wisdom will always give you an honest assessment, and it will always say, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. None of those things sound like fun to us. None of them sounds like something we would want to pursue. But the Viking in you says, suck it up, buttercup, and realize wisdom is worth whatever the sacrifice is to get it. That's not just to say that we need to live in constant suffering or sacrifice. Each of Odin's examples are moments in time, a brief discomfort. There's the lesson. Don't shy away from the moments, realizing the majority of the time life isn't suffering. It's actually enjoying the wisdom that the hard moments have produced, and it leads to appreciation and gratitude in our daily lives. Most of us don't avoid wisdom because it's hard to find. We avoid it because it costs something to obtain. Life will always throw challenges our way. The question is, will we find the wisdom in the moment? Will we learn from the hardships and come out the other side with a greater perspective and understanding? Failure is another key area that can produce wisdom if we do it with the proper perspective, which in of itself is wisdom. Wisdom says you aren't finished when you fail. You're only finished when you quit. This is the moment where you can determine what comes next, because some people go through pain and become bitter. Others go through the same fire and come out refined, not because the pain was different, but because they chose to search out wisdom in the midst of their lived experience. Wisdom says sailing down the river doesn't cost anything and it yields little, but rowing for days on end, something that leads to destiny and discovery, that is worth the struggle, and that leaves your mark on the world, or maybe even just your mark on one other individual. But either way, you're leaving a mark. Here's the question that I leave you with. Do you want wisdom? I think the answer is simple. We all do. And if you've made it this far in the episode, then you're definitely pursuing it. You see it. You desire it. So here it is. Good on you. Keep pursuing wisdom. You'll find it. You'll gain more of it. And the people around you, they will benefit from it as well. The question now is not if this episode stirred something in you, but to what degree. Did it spark a new idea, set you on a new path? Did it resonate and make you want to pursue wisdom to a greater degree? I'd love to hear your thoughts. The Viking Legacy and Lore Discord is a great place to keep the conversation going. The comments section will let other people know that there is wisdom to be had in listening to the sagas of the Viking world. And may what I'm about to say to you mean more today than it did the last time you listened. Until next time, be bold, be strong, and awaken the Viking in you.